then confirmed the bug's presence in-game, and since it had an impact on the match, the Wolves were offered the remake, which is a policy outlined in the LCS rules. So we have determined that this is a champion-specific bug. Victor will be disabled until further notice going forward. Just want to let everybody know, SK Gaming come back after the remake. They were in the lead for the first time round. Not as sizable, not as noticeable, but in the remake, a much more convincing victory. And they go 13-3 on the split.
Looking good for them now. I mean, Giants yesterday was a very shaky performance. They lost the early game there. Didn't look like SK Gaming. Now today, with this game and this win over Copenhagen Wolves, they are still playing the same style. It can still work here. We're going to have to see around the playoffs if other teams here can build a strategy around it. Because you know what SK Gaming is going to do. It's not suddenly going to change from day to day.
That's the interesting thing. That, you know, we kept saying it, and I said it yesterday as well, but the roadmap, the plan, the way to beat SK was clearly exposed at the Intel Extreme Masters in terms of strategy, in terms of picks and bans. We've just watched 2 games back to back. We watched yesterday's game. SK consistently do the same thing, but they do it at such a high level, it's very, very difficult to counteract it. We'll see if anybody can figure it out as we get closer to wrapping up the split. For now, it is time to step on stage where Pyrotechnics is standing by with SK's Sven Skjern.
Thank you very much for that one, guys. Of course, I am with Sven Skjern, the victorious Sven Skjern. First of all, congratulations on your win. You are now 13-3, you guys still remaining the top spot in the LCS going into playoffs. But first thing, big question I want to ask you guys, because everyone's been talking about the jungle, a lot of the crazy stuff we expect to see on this new patch. Did you expect the jungle fizz, to be honest, especially with the Devourer skirmishers?
I didn't really expect it. I thought he would, especially in the second game, I thought he would go for like Nidalee when it was open, because I consider Nidalee and Rek'Sai to be like tier 1, so it was kind of surprising.
Well, there you go. I mean, there's been a lot of talk of a lot of different things popping up. What do you personally think is very strong? I know you'd picked the Rek'Sai, it was obviously open, still the top on a lot of people's sites, but what are your personal expectations to see in the coming weeks?
Since we were at IEM, we didn't really have time to play on 5.5, so we kind of just prepared for 5.4, because it still seems like the best junglers are still Rek'Sai and stuff like that, so didn't really play so much on 5.5 yet.
So it's definitely some things to work out there. And speaking of IEM, you did talk about that. I wanted to bring this one up because you looked a little shaky there, and then you come back, and obviously you beat Giants yesterday, but it was far from the surgical victory we've been expecting from you. Today, however, especially in the remake, you guys looked incredibly strong again. How confident are you after that performance going into the playoffs?
Yesterday was, I would say Giants is pretty good, especially at roaming, so it kind of caught us off by surprise, I'd say. But I think after IEM, we kind of look into our champion pools and like improving everything as in general. So I think we're just going to be a stronger team after the IEM.
That's good. The international experience, always good for those teams. Now, that's enough for us down here. We're going to step it back up to the analyst desk where Cyanide and Shocks are ready to break that down.
Yeah, we're still here. Thank you so much, Pyrotechnics, and those words from Sven Skjern. I want to go back to that fizz because I think it's a little odd that Airwax would go back to picking it. We heard from you and Kikis how it's pretty hard in the early game, and he knew he's going to have a hard time, especially versus Rek'Sai. I just don't really get it.
I just think it was a strategy. They practiced a lot, like going with the fizz split push and then that way winning the game, but it didn't work out in any of these games, mostly because SK was just tactically the superior team, and every time they tried to go for a pick, SK just capitalized and pushed, and even though they managed to get some kills sometimes, the execution was not flawless and they just lost the objectives.
Yeah, it's very odd to me, especially since the game was remade. And do you think it was a case of we only made this one strategy, we have to go with it? Because I feel like SK adapted a little bit more and always wanted to show a little bit more.
In the first game, it didn't go that bad with the fizz pick, so I think they just thought that, all right, we are just going to do it a bit better this time and it's going to work and we're going to win, but it was the opposite.
Yeah, it was. What did you make of SK Gaming? Let's take this second game, so the final game, and then the game yesterday, and just kind of their curve after IEM and going into that first place spot.
I think today, in the second game now, the SK actually played really good. It's the SK we are used to seeing Svenska and putting a lot of early pressure, like we saw him at the start of the split, and not just being AFK. So it's definitely a step in the right direction.
All right, yeah, I'm still scratching my head about the fizz pick, actually. And then in Rated, we had a little bit of comments on him during IEM, the fact that he's very good on that Lulu, he's not very good on that Annie, and also the same thing for Forgiven and maybe his champion pool. But the thing is, for an AD carry, they've all played all these AD carries a million times probably in solo queue and in teams. How do you think that is realistically going to affect him? Because he could have gone something else here, yet he wanted to go for that Corki.
Yeah, it's a bit weird that he actually didn't go for the Lucian. Maybe it's something like you don't want to pick Lucian in the Graves. They have respect for the Copenhagen Wolves bot lane, so they were not that confident in the matchup, so he went for the Corki instead. Could be something like he was just spamming other ADs this last week, practicing them because they obviously saw the problem they were having at IM.
Yeah, had to level it up a little bit. The same for Unrated, who we've criticized for a bit, as I said, now going for that Nami. Do you see a growth of Unrated of the time that you played with him and now, or maybe a difference in the way that he plays the game?
When I was playing with him, Enrated was just really known for his Leona and initiate aggressive plays, and now he's playing the more passive support, so he's like totally changed his playstyle. I don't know why, but he has.
Yeah, he has, and it must be a confidence booster for him as well, because Nami is, of course, a high-skill champion. Also, my favorite champion in the game, so I'm always happy when that gets picked. But for the Copenhagen Wolves here, this was such a crucial week for them. How will this taint them going into the next weeks? Because it seemed like the thing we had praised them for before are still there. Like, Youngbuck is doing better in lane, it's going better for them. RX can make things happen. Soren has had some good games, but it seems like it's falling apart just before the playoffs, or, you know, getting to the playoffs, rather.
Yeah, honestly, this game, I think the problem was they were like wolves hunting in a pack, and they got punished for that. Just SK pushing down the turrets, taking the objectives, and wolves not managing to get enough like money and XP with those skills, so they just fell behind and lost.
Yeah, we will see how they can well, crank that up if they go into the next week, if they want to secure that playoff spot. Well, coming up after the break, Roccat will try and pick up their second win against Giants as they look to protect their spot in the summer split. That's all happening in just 3.5 minutes. We'll see you then.
Copenhagen Wolves at a record of 7 and 8 really cannot afford to lose games.
Now, this is the duel we've looked for.
Deathmark does get dodged. Airwax forced to flash.
Oh!
Airwax is in trouble, and he does get away. Ignis Slash didn't connect, but Youngbuck eats a bubble. Tibbers locks up Svenskeren. Now Freddy gets a 3-man Soul Shackles, and everybody from the Wolves is forced to split, flashing away from the charm. Youngbuck is trying to get exhausted. The damage. Slicing Maelstrom does get a few, but is exhausted. The damage is mitigated. SK Gaming convincingly defeat the Copenhagen Wolves.
Love your old gray missions, love your vineyard stretching far. I love you, California, with your golden gate ajar. I love you, California, I just can't help loving you.
Well-qualified current lessees of competitive vehicles get a low-mileage lease on Cherokee.
What are you guys doing?
Did you guys buy your tickets?
Who's your buddy?
Who is that? This is Laura's account. Who would hack into a dead girl's account?
Everyone hands up. Who's doing this?
When Martin Cooper invented the mobile phone in 1973,
Hello? Yeah, this is Marty. Guess what we did?
connectivity took a mighty leap forward. Staying connected is also the Mazda way. That's why the all-new Mazda 3 uses cutting-edge technology.
Hey.
Hi. Headed home?
On my way.
To keep you seamlessly connected to the world around you and the road beneath you. This is the all-new Mazda 3. What do you drive?
Welcome back to the European League Championship Series, everybody. I'm Devin Pyrotechnics Young, and I'm stepping in at the caster desk, of course, still alongside Martin DeFicio Linga, as the Giants set up on stage to take on Rocket.
We're still here, fourth game of the day.
Oh yeah, going strong.
2 teams fighting to avoid relegation. Let's see who can win.
Well, let's get right into it. Let's not waste any time at all. We're going to check out the starting lineup for Giants Gaming. That means in the top lane, it's going to be Werlib. In the jungle, it is Frederick, Pepinero, the mid laner, Audrey, the AD carry, Lothark, their coach, and of course, I forgot the sport. It's Rydal.
Yeah, and then, as we said before here, Giants trying to avoid the auto relegation. Medium Makers lost earlier today, but they won yesterday, so if they win here, they will move into number 9 in the standings. Obviously, MOM sitting as number 10. Yesterday, they had a pretty good early game against SK Gaming. They got like 5k gold ahead of them, but then we saw the same Giants problem we have seen time and time again.
Yes, but this time they had Jax.
They did, but they don't know what to do in the mid game, and it just falls apart for them. They give so many openings for the other team.
Yeah, it really was a little rough to watch when they just didn't seem to have it together, know exactly what to do. That was kind of the problem for them. It's been the problem for them all split, really. And now they have to win today. This is their last shot to keep the dream alive to go into playoffs, as slim as it still is.
And as you said before, they had to Jax on Werlib, and it's a pick for him that's been banned so many times. In 12 games, it's been taken away from him. The 2 games he played in the week 1, he won. Now they had it again. He got, honestly, a good start. He had 2 kills. He had 1 assist. He got a Trinity Force. He could start split pushing, but decided not to. Into the mid game, he went team fighting. As you saw there, he went 3-4-3. He just ended up dying left and right because Jax in a team fight before he gets any tank items is not going to do a whole lot. It was against a Maokai as well. They basically
after a while.
allowed SK Gaming to get back in the game.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, that really was kind of the end of it. But as we'd mentioned before, I mean, SK, they had not gotten quite back to the dominating form that we just saw. So that was kind of one of their best shots at it. Today, you know, they really, really have to make this one count. And, you know, of course, against the team like their opponents today, Rocket, too. You can't take them lightly, even despite their record so far. And we're going to go ahead and take a look at their lineup, of course, on the red side. Team Rocket, they currently lead the head-to-head after beating Giants back in Week 3. It is going to be Overpow in the top lane, Yankos in the jungle, mid laner, Nuke Duck, AD carry, Woolite, the support Vander, and, of course, Coach Ducky.
Yeah, and yesterday for them, they lost in 26 minutes to Fnatic. They picked Jarvan, which is not a pick I normally would put Overpower on. I don't think he's much of a carry top laner, but he got the Jarvan. It was meant to be a counter pick to Lissandra, if you look at the pick and ban phase.
Exactly,
and
then they got juked.
Yeah, clearly they didn't expect Lissandra to go to the mid lane, so once it swapped around, Lissandra went mid lane, Hecarim went top lane, suddenly Rocket were caught in a situation where they didn't really know what to do, and they just got completely stomped by Fnatic, honestly. 26 minutes, nothing they really could do. And yeah, now they have to win because MOM and Giants, they're knocking on the door here. They want to get Rocket's position, obviously still want to get out of relegation. And
exactly.
This is a team, before the split, everyone expected to do well. Now it looks like they are heading down to play against a challenger team to stay in the LCS.
Yeah, I mean, and this is such a far cry from where everyone expected Rocket to be at the beginning of the season. Teams and a lot of high expectations on them, just singing their praises, saying, oh, they're fantastic in scrims. They're pulling out all this good stuff. Nuke Duck is just going to be this absolute beast. And, you know, credit, they played very well individually in a lot of ways, but then they just fell apart. They didn't have a lot of coordination. They also had some serious issues in the longer games. And it just seems like it never came together for Rocket.
Yeah.
They had some improvements, but it was far too late.
But this patch here, 5.5, technically, it should benefit them. Because you can play this double tank setup, and you can go to late game, which is what Rocket has liked to do in the past. You can take Overpower, who, again, is not performing well enough to be a carry top laner, put him on a tank. Yankers, obviously done a good job, but not the same kind of players we saw last year. He can play the style of Sejuani, Zach, whatever. He can play that too. And then you can still build around Woolite. They like to do, put him on a hyper carry, and try and set up a combo like that. Because whenever they played the best, it's when they're like protected Woolite with everything they got. And then he would still be able to pull it out.
That's the thing I really wanted to bring up too, because yesterday it seemed like they had a comp that should have been relatively able to do that, yet he goes ahead and picks Lucian. And it really just never got rolling. They took the 2v2 lane, and it just fell behind in items and damage. At the end of the game, I remember he was like spending Collings, and just it hit the front line and it tickled.
Yeah,
It did almost nothing. Like a Kog'Maw Jinx, even Tristana would have
Exactly.
been fantastic in that situation, but he didn't go for it.
They felt forced to do standard lanes because they had that Jarvan top lane for them. Despite having Lucian into Graves, I believe it was a Graves Annie from Fnatic side, and yeah, that was a lane they weren't going to win. And it's really just been a problem. There's been so many problems for this team. We know they have good players. They clearly don't really have the correct decision-making down. And it just seems like every time something goes wrong in the pick and ban phase as well for them as a team, so they leave them in a disadvantage. And that's why they're sitting as number 8 in the standings at the moment, and Giants obviously right behind them. Somewhat the same deal here, not in terms of pick and bans, more just your shot calling in the mid to late game. It really hasn't been good enough. And we saw it against SK Gaming yesterday. They still have a great early game. That's where Rocket has been fairly weak in the past. So I do expect to see Giants win the early game again. Question is, can they then close out the game?
Yeah, that is always kind of the question. But also, is how long the game goes seems to be really proportional to seeing some really, really strange behavior out of Rocket, too. I feel like if we get into those really late game scenarios, it could get really dodgy for both these teams, just because it's almost uncharted territory after a while.
And Rocket has an AD carry who likes to jump forward, also in the late game.
Yes, this is why you need the Juggernaut, because
that's
it doesn't
why
matter
you
if
need
he's
the
in the
protection
front.
for him, because then
or something else that
he can still go all this damage and he can still do well. I wouldn't be surprised to see that kind of composition. Obviously, again, you got to respect that early game from Giants. You got to respect Frederick and the ganks he can pull off. I still think you can ban Jax. I don't see a reason to give it to Whirlip.
Yeah, I mean, that was the reason it didn't get banned yesterday. I think SK was just feeling like very, very confident and we can beat it anyways.
For sure.
And also, you know, not without a degree of success there, that they let them have it. It didn't really pan out for them. I feel like Giants as a team, it really should have. That is where they had, you know, in week 1 it was the element of surprise. You got to give them that credit. But also, that just, when you've got a pocket pick like that, and you still can't really do much of anything, even against a very, very strong team, admittedly, it is really troubling when, you know, that's something you fall back on, and that doesn't work.
It's a concern more, obviously. We heard Svensson just before here in the interview with you saying that Giants is tough to play against because they roam around a lot. Riley's going to leave the lane. He's going to go to mid lane. We know Frederick is a very active jungler as well. So if you pick a very slow scaling composition and you're not respecting that early game, that's where you can fall behind, which is what we've seen certain teams do against Giants. And then also when you play against Giants, you can never say this game is over, because they have this fantastic ability to like steal a Baron and get back in the game.
Yep, and with that, we are loading into picks and bans. Zed is taken away, followed by the Cassiopeia. We'll see if we see the Jax a bit later on, but Giants, they have the rotation right now.
Yeah, and we'll have a first pick. We know Rek'Sai is a good pick for Frederick. I've seen it being first pick quite a lot. We see a lot of teams leave it open because there's so many tier 2 junglers now that can do really well. And they like give that Rek'Sai as a first pick and then take 2 strong picks on their side. I like this ban from Giants. Avoid that Jogger more composition, which is one of the few comps that Rocket has really been able to pull off. And I wonder also for Nuke Dog here. I mean, he played Twisted Fate in week 7. I quite liked it for me. He's very good at Twisted Fate.
Yeah, he's been really mixing a lot of different things. At the beginning of the split, he tried a lot of LeBlanc with very limited success. And, you know, we've seen a couple other of the choices come in, some of the flavor of the month stuff, you know, cast in for a little while. And then, you know, he's kind of been picking more interesting things lately. And as you said, I think it's been a little bit of a boon to Rocket because it's hard to figure him out now.
I like at least TF against a team who roams around a lot. It does allow you to really counter-gank them. I guess the only worry could be that Pepinero will be able to control that mid lane. Not that Twisted Fate is a bad laner, he just doesn't really win his matchups. He just goes even and then he puts focus on making plays in the other lanes. And that's always been one of the concerns. When you play against Giants, it's often about Pepinero in that mid lane. He likes to play the assassins. Ahri and LeBlanc is open. I think they're talking now about, should we first pick LeBlanc now that Zed is banned and it's been one of such a common ban against Nuke Dog who can also play these assassins, or do we take that Rek'Sai for Frederick?
Yeah, that's kind of always the question. Do you want to focus on potentially where you think you're going to be able to step up carry individually, or do you want to go for something completely different? There we go. There's the Lulu. So this is, it's not been played a ton on Giants' side. We have seen it, obviously, by Rydell. He played 1 game on it. And then I don't believe Pepinero has, but it's a bit of a takeaway option.
Yeah, this is purely a takeaway. So this is the kind of composition we mentioned that Rocket has played in the past and won with, where you protect that AD carry. Lulu is so important in those comps because she gives so much utility. The Whimsy is great, especially late game for your AD carry, the extra damage you get. So that's the takeaway here. Rocket can then basically say, do we want LeBlanc, Rek'Sai, or do we simply want to pick towards our comp here? I mean, Jinx has been a pick Adri used in the past, but not necessarily one who would run instantly. Unless, of course, they want to do the same kind of composition. You got the Lulu already, so I feel like this takeaway is pretty smart from Rocket. Deny that protect AD carry comp from Giants denied a hyper carry.
Not only that, you know, this is the kind of thing that, as you mentioned before, they've had in some of their successes, some of the very near successes. There was a game, I think it went very, very late, and it turned out really, really close for Rocket. So this is the kind of thing that Woolite likes.
And they can still go Morgana top lane for Overpower to have the Black Shield as well. Nunu jungle has been super strong already on 5.5 to be buff of these AD carries here. So 2 takeaways. Lulu first taken away from Rocket, and then they say, you know what, we know you're going to play around your AD carry, now we're going to take the Jinx, we're going to take the Janna, so we have to protect the AD carry already built up.
Well, and yeah, in the Janna too, as obviously the tail and pass has been changed a little bit, but you still get the speed boost in the certain situations, and that's...
When you run away, at least.
Exactly. When you run towards the Janna in any situation. So there we go, Giants, as it ticks down, it looks like they will be able to secure that Rek'Sai preference for Frederick. The question is, what do they pick next? Yep, there's the little block.
Yeah, the few picks we were talking about. Not a real surprise for Pepinero, and you can see Whirlip has changed his summoners here. Normally that signals a Hecarim is coming, but I'm lying to you guys because it's been banned away. I got tricked.
He wants it. It's in memoriam.
Tricked by him changing their summoners there. Anyway, for Giants, Rydell normally likes to play supports where he can make some plays. He's very active early on in terms of roaming, so there for Lulu wouldn't really fit his style in that sense. But the same can be said for Whirlip, who's been a bit of a carry top laner whenever he could get his hands on a carry champion at least. So I wonder where this Lulu is going to end up. And for Rocket, if they want that Nunu, that's where you can buff up the Jinx. But Sejuani is still open as well. Giants here, super mid-game focused. Renekton, he's gonna get basically he's just gonna become a massive tank in the late game. You got that LeBlanc here. We know Pepinero needs to create the picks in the mid game around level 16 as well as like the latest pod you really want to play around with LeBlanc.
Yeah.
And then of course Lucian Lulu, fantastic strong early on. Does fall behind compared to a Jinx Janna in the late game, though.
Yeah, well, we'll have to see how this one works for them. Now, before we get to level 1, go ahead and tweet us at LOL Esports. Let us know if you think the Giants can even out the head-to-head, or if Rocket's going to take 2-0 this split with the hashtags, of course, GIA win or ROC win. We are getting ready. We are going to load up. We've had an interesting day so far. I hope you guys are still with us. It sounds like it. The crowd is getting amped. The big EU sign goes up. The lights go down. We're going to get onto the Rift for game number 4.
It's not the first time we see Nuke Duck take a bit of a tricky matchup here. You can farm on a Twisted Fate in nearly everything. But Pepinero will have the kill pressure on this LeBlanc, and he's used it beforehand. He's not shy of jumping in, aiming for these kills, even running Ghost here for Nuke Duck on Twisted Fate. So he's just going to be sitting back and farming. allowing Frederick and Pipinero together to make some plays.
Oh yes, now as the teams take to the Rift, let's hear what it's like playing against the constant comeback threat that the Giants do bring to the stage.
It's gonna be weird to play against the Giants, you know, even if you're winning 10k gold, you're gonna think about the elements of the game, and you just have to approach them really seriously and not let them have a chance to come back.
Never give them a chance to come back. You remember the elements game.
Oh, we all remember that one. Quick turnaround from Giants. It is still a thing. I mean, they keep it very cool in the game. Always trying to stay focused, aim for the steals and the comeback. So Rocket invading in, trying to spot where the lanes are going. And they, again, this Jarvan last time got into the one-on-one lane, and that wasn't a problem for Rocket yesterday. The problem was the dual lane in the bottom lane got destroyed, honestly, by the Annie Graves setup. In this case, Lululushin has a lot of early pressure in the lane. But Jarvan in a lane swap doesn't really offer a whole lot on the side of Rocket, but they are setting up for it. A lot of deep wards, even one in the lane bush on the top side to see if anyone was waiting there from Giant side.
You see them moving up, actually in mass right now to the top. And a lot of members of Giants in the middle, so this is already a little bit of an awkward start. You see...
Yeah, they're going to swap back, yeah.
Yep, well, it's going to take a back in the brush. So that is what's happening here.
Oh,
so far they're waiting though. Uh-oh, Audrey could be in some trouble. And that is why you don't face check up Brush. Gonna burn his flash very quickly, but Rydell is also gonna be forced to do it to Summoners for the price of an exhaust. And straight to the Gromp, boys.
Yeah, so Giants very clearly wanted 2v2 lane, but they were spotted by wards running through that mid lane as well. Rocket has already swapped around, getting the 2v1 against the Renekton. And I want to see if Overpower can make some early plays on this Jarvan. Get level 2 and you have some great ganks. That's what you can do in the lane swap. They're chasing onto Rydell again. Well, I guess Rydell is chasing them, trying to stop them from stealing this blue buff.
Trying to go double team with it. It is going to get smited down, however, now they turn their attention to Rydell. Jankos moving back away from that one, not quite interested in taking the fight in case there's something else behind it. Clear Lance will connect in.
Oh, Pipinero's moving.
Yeah, this could be some trouble. Whoa, the Ignite is burned. That'll be enough to take him out. It doesn't look like it.
Good flash.
Yeah.
Some overpower. Flash used by Pipinero as well, allowing Nukedog to get the early push in this lane on Twisted Fate. So it's time you walk in and you throw down a few red cards on the minions in the start. Rydell's not done.
He's not stopped roaming.
Keeps looking for these two guys here.
Waiting in the brush, see if he can get the steal off.
Didn't get it.
It's going to get taken by Jankos. Still, he really wants those buffs.
This is a level 1 Lulu with no flash, by the way.
Ooh.
Following Rocket around. Overpower didn't get level 2 yet. They couldn't share the XP. So Frederick got a bit of an advantage. Stole the blue buff from Rocket. Gone back to his own jungle now. Looking for Nukedog. See if they can force a summoner.
Oh, they do.
Flash.
Very quickly, as soon as the chains are on him, he decides to bail out. Meanwhile, to the bottom lane, the quietest part so far of this game. Whirlib is not really able to get involved in any of that farming action just yet, with the Jinx and the Janna sitting there.
And we have seen how both the lanes have been pushing in the side lanes here. Giants are pushing on the top side. Opa got to teleport there, seeing as they saw the Rek'Sai in the mid lane. That was safe for him to do. No risk of him getting tower dived suddenly by Giants. So that was a good teleport from him, picking up quite a lot of farm. Same can be said about the bottom lane, because there Rocket has built up a massive wave. It's going to come into the hands of Whirlib unless Jankos can get down here in time. But Frederick should know that's about to happen and be nearby. You even saw Jankos step on the trap here, also on the tunnel. So he should be here to defend for Whirlib and get all this XP.
Oh yeah, should take a little bit of time though to get there. And now Jankos is coming. Double buffs are on. Frederick's a little bit low to deal with this. And now the Krugs are actually going to be started up by Jankos. So the junglers are going to meet in mid-camp.
But just by him showing himself here, Frederick on the bottom side, that secures Whirlib to get all the farm. Rocket suddenly has to change strategy and try and fast push the tower instead. Not denying too much from Whirlib.